My name is Alex Caserta. I recently retired from a 34-year career as a visual arts instructor in order to embark on a new adventure. As a photographer, my goal is to reveal historical information while shedding new light on the people and places that sustain our rich cultural heritage. This is an opportunity for us to discover the farms, food, and flavors of our beautiful state. This is a time for us to explore the diverse wonders in our own backyard.
This is Harvesting Rhode Island.
I'm here with Linda Tucker at Sodco Farm. I cannot believe the amount of land that is out here that is wide open with open sky. It's absolutely beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit about your background in terms of growing up with this type of responsibility in farming?
I grew up across the street. There's a house over on the hill. My parents moved to Slocum in 1950 when they purchased their first parcel of this land. They bought 262 acres, and then over the next 20 years, as land became available, they bought additional parcels. And so in the end, they had acquired about 1,000 acres, 500 acres, which was farmland. And the land that we are now is known as the Brow Farm. This was the last parcel they purchased in about 1969. And my father was a potato farmer for all of that time. And so we grew up on a potato farm and started working very young, starting picking stones. And also then when we got a little older, we graduated to grading potatoes.
Tell me something a little bit about the business and what it's like to run such an enormous company.
It has its challenges. There's always a challenge that we didn't even think about. We start with just a little tiny grass seed, and it has to be very well, the preparation for the fields and the seeding, and then the harvesting, and then the delivery and the marketing and the collections. We have very, very good, capable people. Probably now we have the best group of people working at Sodco that we've ever had. So we have a great field team, and John is amazing. I would say he's a grass scientist. I came in one day, he goes, "You may think we're growing grass, but we're not. We're making sure the good bugs survive and do their work."
Now you have, I guess, a certain limit in terms of mileage where you actually deliver to keep the product fresh?
Yes, it's a perishable product. When we start in the early spring, people could get their delivery of grass, and they would probably have maybe 3 or 4 days to lay it without any deterioration in quality. As the weather warms up and as the grass starts growing faster, it can be very perishable, and we say you lay it the day you get it.
Can you tell me something about the special type of grass that you're growing right now?
When we started Sodco in 1981, we grew one kind of grass, and that was bluegrass. And now we probably have 6 or 7 different types of grass we grow. We're very excited about our Black Beauty turf type tall fescue. We're the exclusive distributor of that in New England, and it is a beautiful grass. Once it's established, it requires 1/3 to 50% less water and fertilization to keep it looking good. It's more salt tolerant, drought tolerant, and right now we sell more of our Black Beauty turf type tall fescue than we do of the original bluegrass. Once people try it, there's no going back. And what we're very excited about now, we've just started growing the micro clover Black Beauty, and that is the Black Beauty with a specialized clover plant that is in the grass. And once the clover comes up, that feeds the grass. So there is no fertilization needed. And it's a beautiful grass. We've harvested some that hasn't had any fertilizer, pesticides. It's only been mowed for the last year, and it is gorgeous. So that was an experiment that we started for a park in New York City, and they're thrilled with it. And we're very, very excited about the potential for it. I think it's the way of the future.
here with John Idson at Sodco, and from what I understand, John, you're the bug man?
I wouldn't say bugs per se, I would say more like microorganisms. What any farmer does is we're actually growing the soil, we're growing microorganisms, and the microorganisms grow our plants. It isn't just that we put fertilizer out on the ground and voila, everything is green. It first has to be digested by microorganisms, and then they convert it into a form that the plants can use. And so by making the soil healthy, by doing cover cropping, and by watching what we do that could be harmful to the soil, by enhancing those microorganisms, they in turn grow our grass and enhance our crops.
I was looking at the section of grass over here. There's tons of clover in it. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, this is a product we're really excited about. It has clover in it, but it's not by accident. This is our flagship Black Beauty product, which is 70% tall fescue, 20% bluegrass, and 10% ryegrass, mixed with a micro clover. And the reason behind this is that the Black Beauty is naturally drought tolerant, insect tolerant, and is very durable. And then when you mix the clover in with it, the clover will feed this grass. The clover produces nitrogen, and it fertilizes this grass. What you're seeing behind us hasn't been fertilized with any synthetic fertilizers, any type of fertilizers that we put on in over a year. This is just growing on its own, and it has to be some of the darkest, cleanest grass that we have on the farm.
Yeah, it's thick and beautiful. It's not the type of clover that grows in lawns when you go to somebody's house. It's a different type.
That's right. It's a micro clover, and it grows smaller in size than your typical white clover or Dutch clover. It is non-colonizing, and what that means is that the clover does not become one giant plant. The plants stay individual in this micro clover. They stay sprinkled throughout the grass, and so that it doesn't turn into big patches of clover, which can be unsightly in some lawns. And the other thing is that it doesn't flower very much at all. It is very light flowering, so you don't see the white flowers that normally you would see with the other clovers that are in lawns. So it doesn't attract the bees. It's not an issue with kids playing on it and bee stings, things like that.
We're here at the Sodco turf farm, right across from the oversized local post office in Slocum, which has been here forever, I think, right?
Yes, it has.
And speaking of forever, I think you've been here for quite some time, right?
The joke on the farm here is that I'm the fossil of the farm. I've been here as long as the dirt, but I've also seen the changes in everything that has happened here on the farm. What we're standing on here now is the Black Beauty, a newer grass that 6 years ago, we weren't growing. 30 years, this was primarily a bluegrass farm, and with the downturn in the economy, we had to change what we were doing. We send sod to Nantucket. We have a distributor out there, a trucking company, takes all the sod out to Nantucket for us. And he called me up in February of 2010 at 6 in the morning, and I said, I know you're not calling to order sod this early in the morning, so what's the problem? The town was talking about banning bluegrass sod to the island because a science teacher on the island at one of the private schools had dumped a bag of fertilizer on the ground, dumped 5 gallons of water on it, pointed at the kids and said, this is what your parents' fancy bluegrass lawn is doing to the water here on Nantucket. I told him, I said, well, we have an alternative grass for you. This Black Beauty takes 30 to 50% less fertilizer and water, looks just like the bluegrass. You can't really tell the difference.
This is some of the most incredible grass I've ever seen, and it stretches out way beyond where we're standing right now. It's absolutely beautiful. It's dark, it's rich, it's thick. Even standing on it, you can actually feel it's like a rug.
It is, and what's, those $1 million homes on Nantucket, that's all they're getting now.
From what you were telling me, it seems like you folks are operating almost 24 hours around the clock.
This is a 24/7. We work 7 days a week, The only time guys have off if it's raining out and we can't get into the fields, basically. That whiteboard, sod is like milk. The warmer it gets, the quicker it spoils.
Okay.
You know, you're not going to go to the store and put the milk in your trunk in 90-degree day and leave it there all day. Yeah. Well, you know, it's going to spoil. That's what's going to happen to sod. When it's 30, 40 degrees, it's going to keep for a couple of days. When it gets up to 80, 90, you've got matter of sometimes hours depending on the conditions. So everything changes with the weather.
Pat, what can you tell me about the whole corn thing that you've got going on here at the farm?
Well, the blazing corn that we put in 2009, when I first heard we were going to grow corn for fuel, I was like, where's the ethanol plant around here? And I was told, no, it's going to be just the kernels of corn burned in a pellet stove or a boiler. And so then I started looking into this, because I was going to have to sell this product. I had to know what I was selling. Seems that the rest of the country since 1969 has been burning corn in these pellet stoves. The corn boiler that we use to heat the office instead of using oil.
Okay.
We have solar light tubing in the office and in the shop. We've cut our electric bill by 1/3. So it's things like that. Again, the low pressure irrigation, this, less fertilizer, more cover crops for less fertilizer.
So you're using all sorts of alternative technology.
We are. Like I said, we try to stay on the cutting edge.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
You know, this farm's got to remain a farm.
Yeah.
We're the stewards of this land. That driveway, grandkids, great-grandkids, want it all to look the same.
Yeah.
It does not.
I'm here with Gene Bento today at Patrick Brook Tree Farm, and we're in Tiverton, Rhode Island. And this is incredible. You have 11 variety of Christmas trees, some of them all the way from China.
Yes.
Which I've never even heard of Christmas trees coming from China before.
Well, they were originally brought in as a landscape tree, but they're a conical shaped evergreen in the spruce family. And I read about them, thought that someone had tried it as a Christmas tree and thought it would do well. So I decided I was going to try it. And actually, I find that that particular variety, Meyer spruce, is now become one of my favorites to grow, and I think it'll definitely be a customer's favorite because they keep coming back saying, I want that tree that I bought last year because it was awesome.
Well, would it last a little longer than the needles?
Their needle retention is up to 3 months at least.
Okay, well, it's quite a long time.
That is a good length of time, and I actually have customers who leave their trees up until March.
Wow. Okay,
they enjoy them
long
all winter.
Season.
They feel that winter's
that's kind of nice.
Drudgery and dull.
Yeah, it is.
It's festive, and sometimes they'll change it to the seasons, like Valentine's Day, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I have several customers.
That's a great
that leave
idea.
them up all winter.
Okay, and this used to be a number of things on this farm.
Yes.
At one time, it was a dairy farm.
Yes.
And your father ran it as a dairy farm?
My father had dairy cows, and his mom, my grandmother, she also ran it as a dairy farm with her sons. She had 5 sons.
And then it wasn't until 1973 that you put your first 1,000 trees in.
Yes. Well, annually we used to put in about 1,000.
1,000.
Because you don't always have them once they reach maturity. They could die from drought or other weather instances such as ice storms, snowstorms, deer, insect disease, things like that. So you're not guaranteed when you plant that tree that 12 to 15 years later you're going to have it.
What type of quality do you want to produce that's important in a Christmas tree?
I think for the consumer, needle retention's a very important thing. And then, of course, how it looks. And majority of people have approximately the same type of taste for a Christmas tree, but we also try to have some that look a little more open, different things or different varieties, because everyone has a different need. and
Yes.
like something, you know, a little different.
So some people might like a tree that's a little bit more closed,
Yes.
where others would like something that's a little bit more open, as you mentioned, where you can maybe hang larger ornaments,
Right.
that type of thing.
Yes. They're also looking for the experience of walking through the fields, enjoying a family day at the farm, having a hayride through the Christmas tree fields. And we also offer hot chocolate and cookies at in our Christmas shop. So, I mean, it's also an experience. It's a family day out.
Do you have any advice for young people who might want to get into the Christmas tree business?
Well, have a lot of money, or have a relative that has land or a tree farm that may
Okay.
want you to take over. You need to have another day job though, because it is expensive, and it's a long-term. If you get an established farm, that's a jump start, because
Yes.
you've got trees that are big.
Trees on the ground,
You
yeah.
have established customer relations,
Uh-huh.
so hopefully they'll continue to come. But you need to know, like I said, how to care for those trees properly to have a good product for your customer. So my advice to them is, if they're really into it and they really love this, go for it. And if not, buy an acre of land and start. And it is a lot of work, and a lot of people want instant gratification for money, so they're not into waiting.
Waiting, because once you plant a 4 to 10 inch seedling,
Right.
it's going to take a few years before you can actually
It's what
have
you
a
call
turnaround.
long-term investment, right? But it's got its great returns, because you're outside working in nature. You're your own boss. Even if it is a part-time, you've got a real job too. You're your own boss in your tree farm, and you're in control. And you see so many great things. You see animals and birds nesting in the trees, and deer. We have coyotes. We have raccoons, your regular rabbits, you know, small things. We've had black bear.
Oh.
So, you know, it has its rewards. They offer habitat for animals. They're good for the environment. They're a renewable resource. An acre of trees supplies enough oxygen for about 18 to 20 people in a day.
Wow.
It's wildlife habitat, and like I said, renewable.
Yes.
It's not going to go to the landfill, and landfills do not accept artificial trees.
Yeah.
So, and we replant that tree they caught. So it's, you know, we're replacing it. We're planting it as a crop, just like you plant tomatoes and corn. So they're not destroying a forest. The trees would not be here if we were not growing them to sell.
Right, and they're learning that, you know, growing trees is an industry, just like any other industry.
It is, yes.
And, yeah. Jean, this is a pretty tall tree. How tall would you say this is?
I'd say it's approximately 13 to 14 feet.
Okay, it's beautiful. It has a beautiful shape to it. And how do you get up to trim something this tall?
I'll do a very light trimming on this, because naturally, this is a Maya spruce, grows very slow, so it's dense naturally. The shape is beautiful naturally. But once I do trim, I hand trim these. I don't machine trim these.
Okay.
And I would use what's called long-handled pruners.
Yes.
And they telescope up, and I should be able to reach this one fine. If it was taller, then I might need a ladder or get a tall grandson.
Yeah. But this is nice and full, and
this is-
beautiful color.
Yes, it has a sturdy branch
Yes.
for holding heavy ornaments. Great needle retention, up to 3 months. People who have the heavy ornaments like it because it's strong.
Yeah.
and-
Now, are
and-
these pine cones?
No, those are buds. These are next year's branches. These are your bud set, and this is your branches for next year already set, because they grow in like end of May through June. The new growth is hardened off now, so they're ready for sharing. This tree does not have any cones. They don't cone that often. I've grown these for about 20 years, and actually last year was the first time I had a tree with cones, so that was a little different.
Yeah, it's a beautiful blue tint to it. How old is this particular tree?
It's 25 years.
That's
Yes.
unbelievable.
Because I'm thinking about when I planted it here and how old it was when it came out. So it's 25.
Unbelievable. It's almost a shame to cut it down, but
I hear you. As a
I
matter
know,
of
it's
fact,
such a
there's a
beautiful
few
tree,
here
though.
that I won't cut because of that, but
Very sturdy
is
looking.
truly my favorite tree here.
yeah, the needles are absolutely beautiful the way they form
Yeah.
in a row. It's just something to look at, I'll tell you. Gene, what type of tree is this one?
This is a Norman fir, and they originate in Oregon. And so we ordered them in. I had seen a few and I liked them. They have great needle retention. They're extremely different than this tree. They're a lighter green. They have a good strong needle. It's stiff. They have great needle retention, strong branches. And this is the leader we were talking about a minute ago. And I will trim this. I'll select a good strong bud, probably this one, and cut above it. And that'll turn up. The sun kind of pulls it up. And then eventually I'll trim this and shape it lightly. And we'll do this every year. It's like Groundhog Day. It's over and over.
it's interesting because the needles on this one are all around.
They're all around.
And the needles on this, they grow up.
Right. These are bottle brush.
Yep.
These are not. These are flat.
And this will thicken up, or will it stay?
As I shear this, see, this is last year's leader. And it grew this year, and put these out. These were the buds at the top. So this will fill in. These are your little branches. So as I start to shear it and it grows, this will fill in like the bottom. These trees, like a Korean fir, like to have a wide bottom. So you have to pay attention when you're shearing and make sure you keep that in a little bit. And then, you know, it'll grow and keep your leader at a certain height. Some growers like long leaders, but then you have a very long, narrow tree. And I'm famous for fat trees, so I shorten up my leader.
So we have some pine cones here.
They're not pine cones, they're fir cones.
Fir cones.
Let me correct you on that one.
Okay.
And this tree is cones on fir. Fraser fir trees are so unique to other cones. Most cones will dry, brown colored, and open up, and the Mother Nature takes care of the seed falling out. It has a wing on it, and it carries it through the air and reseeds the forest or wherever they're growing. Actually, there are seed collectors who collect the cones in different forests, selecting nice mother trees, they're called, and collecting those cones and bringing them back, putting them through something like a dryer, a tumbler. All the seeds fall out, they put them in glass jars and refrigerate them forever in 36 degrees, 34 to 6 degree temperature, and they can keep forever and ever. But this particular tree is a Fraser, and their cones are different. The cone is standing up. I have one here.
Now, is this sap on top?
That is sap. Yes, it is, and you'll get it sticky, and alcohol will take it off.
Yep.
It's green right now. It will turn brown, and when it opens, a lot of growers don't like this. All these little sleeves that support the seed and protect it fall off.
Oh.
It's not like a regular pine cone, as you would call it. It gets stiff. These don't. These fall off, they make a mess of the tree. And the seeds are in them. And they have a very wide wing on these seeds. But a lot of growers will come around and take the cones off beforehand, if you have the time, because they are messy. But usually by the time it's sale time, most of it the wind has shaken off, or you shake it off. But it does leave a little brown stem on the tree, and sometimes I pick them off, sometimes I don't. But most people don't mind to hang something on it. But, but it's very different than your other cones on your other trees, extremely different. You know, it looks like this because it has been sheared. If it wasn't sheared, then you're looking at spaces between each set of whorls, each set of branches, and then you've got lots of space.
Yeah, you don't want
But
that.
I have a few. We put 5 trees in our house, and there is one that I'll pick a Fraser in the back, one of the back fields that are really tall, and I don't shear those, and I'll take the top off because it's got big spaces, and I'll put that in my sunroom, and it'll stay in there for 3 or 4 months, unwatered. I'm doing the wrong thing, and it'll last, and I'll hang a lot of gingerbread ornaments and stuff like that on it, and they're long, some of the things, so it works
Very
for
nice.
that.
Well, great. A lot of good information. I want to thank you very much today for letting us up here.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it, and I hope that what I have said helps a lot of people understand about trees and entices them to have a real tree.
Yes, I hope
they
so.
don't.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.